Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eye on ESI and happy Friday. I am being joined today. I am Maribel Rivera, Vice President of Strategy and Client Engagement at ACEDS. And I am joined today by Mike Quartararo, our President, and also Jared Coseglia, TRU Staffing Partners, Founder and CEO.
Hi, everybody.
Mike and Jared, how you guys doing?
Fantastic for a Friday, hanging in there.
Awesome.
Good morning.
Busy Friday. Hot market. Still a hot market.
Still a hot market. Very true. And we've got a lot going on, right? We're in the middle of conference season, right? It's not done yet. We've got a few more conferences to go. A lot more happening before the end of Q4, even leading up to ediscovery day. So I want to kick us off. Let's start with what everyone comes here to see on a monthly basis. You guys ready?
Ready.
Okay. So Jared, walk us through some of the changes that we've been seeing and what we're looking at actually.
Yeah, 100%. So the three key metrics that we're bringing to you every quarter are speed of hire, compensation, and workforce evolution. And workforce evolution will include things like contract versus full-time hiring. It'll also include in-office mandates versus work from home flexibility. This is the speed of hire chart. And Maribel, if you click twice more, you'll highlight for everybody where the changes are from this time last month. So you'll see right here. Whoop, too much. Go back one more.
I got too excited.
You got too excited. So here we are, here in the blue. You'll see in Q3, there's been a slight change to the speed of hire, and that's that mid-market non-contract professionals are still at about 20 to 30 days. So that's PMs, that's analysts, that's analytics, that's middle management, and this is for the vendors, right? So we've distinguished this month from vendor hiring in Q3 22 from law firm hiring. If you do one more click, you'll see law firm hiring turn blue. Law firm hiring has moved, too much, to 60 to 90 days. So it's taking law firms almost twice, if not three times as long to fill the exact same positions as their vendor counterparts. Why? The number one reason is in-office mandates. Most of our law firm customers are now moving to a 3-day mandate in the office. And there are a couple of metrics I want to share with everyone, specifically hiring managers, that relate to this statistic that are really, really important for you to hear. The difference in the volume of candidate flow that a law firm will receive if they move from a 3-day mandate to a 2-day mandate in the office is nearly 50%. So if you've got a 3-day in the office mandate and you see 2 candidates, you move to a 4-day a 2-day mandate instead of 3, and you're going to see 4 candidates. And that is expanding itself accordingly. If you're a 1-day week, you're probably seeing more like 8. So there is a huge, huge drop off in the willingness of job seekers who are looking for law firm jobs in the middle market. This is PMs, managers, analysts, data analysts, processing, that whole middle market for ediscovery, which is like 80% of the jobs in the business, a huge fall off between 2 and 3 days. And that's what's taking law firms so much longer to fill the positions.
And this is kind of taking us back to what we were seeing pre-pandemic, right? These hiring timeframes, speed to hire.
Yes and no. Yes and no. It used to be that the vendors were more or less in the same time cycle in terms of how long it took to conduct and successfully hire somebody, but because the vendors have almost holistically adopted a fully virtual culture for those who want it, and law firms are moving the other direction, there's now a divide happening in the marketplace.
Right. Excellent. Mike, you look like you've got a lot on your mind over there. Are you taking this all in?
I want Jared to finish with the other 2 categories, but I mean, obviously, Jared, please address the question, why, what are we hearing? What's different? Why is it changing? I feel like we went digital and now we're going back to analog. I don't know what's going on here. So if you have any insight, that'd be great.
I mean, look, I don't know if the comparison from digital to analog is entirely fair.
I was overemphasizing.
But yes, right? Like we've experienced and tasted a new way of working. And I think kind of critically, I was just having this conversation with one of my customers on Wednesday. There's just been a critical shift in American culture where having more time with family, spending more time with kids, having that flexibility, not always to be there every day, 5 days a week, but having that flexibility of, yeah, I want to pick my kids up from school in the afternoon and then get back online. That matters more now than it ever did before for people. And what we've seen from job seekers is a shift from those things actually being more important to them than career ambition. And what ediscovery mid-market professionals are up against is a little bit of a concrete ceiling in terms of vertical growth mobility in the industry. So what are they really looking for? They're looking for more money and more flexibility and better people that are more interesting or likable to work with. That's what's really driving people leaving jobs and starting another one. So what they're finding is it is becoming increasingly more difficult to get people to come into an office as their priorities shift as job seekers, which leads us to the next slide, which is compensation. I know Maribel's been eager to get here.
Yeah, before we go to that slide, we have a question, right? Why is it that they can't go into the office for 3 days a week while many attorneys and paralegals already are? It's a bad economy with inflation and such getting worse. And our cities are still very depressed with most buildings only half full and they can't get in 3 days a week.
Yeah, so there's a lot of assumptions in that statement. The first of which is that the attorneys and paralegals are coming into the office 3 days a week as well, which is not often the case. And often what's happening is actually the opposite of that. The attorneys are never coming into the office. The staff is being told to come into the office. And the reason they're being told is because they need to have FaceTime with their attorneys to develop relationships, and then nobody's there. Yeah. So that dissonance creates instant lack of job satisfaction. And that's why people turn over even faster than maybe they would have turned over before. The second assumption in there is that the expectation is that all employees across the entire ecosystem are having the same level of FaceTime interaction with stakeholders and attorneys. And that's also not the case. Project managers feel very differently than data analysts or people who are running productions and processing data all day. And standards are being held for the same based on role definition. And that's creating dissonance in the marketplace too. So, hiring managers have to really set expectations as to what the value proposition of coming into the office is, and then live up to those expectations, because the lack of setting them or the lack of living up to them is what's causing cyclical turnover for firms that are holding to a mandate that doesn't also resonate with a value proposition. And yes, that is a shift in change in culture. Yes, it's not like it was before. And yes, we all have to adapt.
All right, so
salary.
It looks like someone did actually say, Jared is correct. I posted a job opening multiple times for an EDD professional. Until I added that this is a remote position, almost nobody applied. I think remote work is here to stay for good.
Yeah, I mean, look, people want flexibility. People want flexibility. That doesn't mean 100% remote, but it does mean entertaining the idea that you, the employer, may have to compromise on certain variables in your job search in order to attract and retain talent. And that is uncomfortable for some employers. And just to the other point, this idea that, oh, the economy is falling apart, we're heading into recession, people should just be lucky to have jobs. Well, I got news for you. Here's what's different about this recession than every other one that I've lived through. And I've lived through 3, right? I lived through 9/11, I lived through Occupy Wall Street, and now I've lived through the pandemic. Here's what's different about this recession. Unemployment is lower than it was before the pandemic right now. It's not how it usually goes. Usually what happens is when interest rates go up, consumer price index go up, the stock market goes down, unemployment also goes up. People start firing people in order to maintain margins that they've lost because interest rates have gone up and their debt leverage. That's not the case now. They can't fire people because salary inflation is so rampant. I mean, look, ediscovery professionals are still getting 20 to 30% increases. I placed somebody yesterday, got a 40% increase in salary because 3 people were fighting over the same individual. They started at a salary offer at 100, and by the time they were done, they got a $135,000 base. So there is still a war for talent. People are not firing ediscovery professionals right now. That might change, but until it does, this is what's going to happen, which if you can click the next slide, you'll see where we have seen changes in the last 30 days and the price point. The price point here on the 4 to 7 years has gone up significantly for project managers. And if you click one more time, you'll see at the senior PM level, it's gone up here as well. We're now seeing major law firms pay somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 in base compensation for a PM with about 6 to 7 years experience. Once you get into 10 plus years of experience, if you're looking at an AmLaw top 100, they're commanding salaries north of $200,000 in base compensation. It's not everybody, but it's enough firms that this is a trend, right? This is a trend. And this is not only being seen at the point of hire, we're also seeing people get raises in order to keep them employed that are equivocal to these numbers. And while the rest of the market, we really haven't seen much change, project managers are becoming increasingly harder to staff. Yes, Mike.
I feel like I got to raise my hand to be heard.
No, I've got you, Mike. I
So
looking at your face to see what the question might be.
this would make, so I mean, I spent many years working in law firms. This is shocking to me. And so it would be more understandable if we knew, are these billable roles? In other words, is a $200K salary, is that person billing
80%.
Okay, yeah, because that makes more sense then. It's like saying a paralegal, right, which is, years ago weren't billable, now they're billable, or even just an attorney, frankly. In other words, the firm is making money off this role. That's why they're able to afford that. Yeah, okay. Correct. That makes more sense to me, because years ago, many, lit support, e-discovery operations were just cost centers. And maybe that's why salaries were so depressed for so long. I don't know.
Well, also keep in mind, law firms now are outsourcing enough of the kind of tactical heavy lifting that comes with less sophisticated skill sets, that they have a higher expectation of what they want and get from a project manager, which is very consultative, which is often very strategic and technical and not tactical operational anymore. Mm-hmm. So that evolution has also moved the salaries up, and we're seeing more of that kind of rote, people in managed service agreements, get the heavy lifting done, project managers who are really coordinating customer service efforts and not providing strategic solutions to complicated problems based on having seen things in the trenches. That's more what law firms are targeting. They need that sophistication. And a lot of these high-end people are running teams, right? They're running engagement pods. So they're also managing and mentoring other individuals within like a pod or an engagement team, similar to what we've seen at consulting firms in Big Four over the year. So now you're adding leadership into the equation of valuing that person financially.
Yeah, and it's interesting to point out too, as you note in the parentheses at the top, this is what at point of hire. This Correct. Is not someone's in a role for 5, 7, 10 years. These numbers are probably lower than those salaries.
Yes and no. I mean, anecdotally, we are hearing of people who are coming to us looking for jobs who were saying, you're priced out, right? You're making 2.25. Like, I don't have people that are going to pay you much more to do the same job somewhere else. So we are seeing some of that also correlate to retention. But yes, this from a dollars and cents perspective are numbers that are derived from actual placements that are being made.
Got it. That's important. Okay.
I want to move to our next slide on average salaries.
Yeah, so this is for service providers, and not much has changed here. If you click once more, you'll see kind of the 1 or 2 distinctions, which are in the same categories, right? It's in project manager and senior project manager. Those are the 2 areas where we've seen it tick up. Vendors are having to tick this up because they're fighting over the same talent as law firms. And when somebody gets an offer at 135 from a vendor and 185 from a law firm, it becomes very difficult to argue that I'm going to take a $50,000 less position. Most people are saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to go into the office for 3 days a week or 2 days a week or whatever it is for that extra 50 grand. But what a chasm that is between what law firms are willing to pay versus vendors. So we're seeing that tick up a little bit, right? We're also seeing vendors start to over-incentivize on variable compensation for senior project managers, where, variable comp for PMs used to be like 5 to 10%. We're seeing it now move in that 10 to 15, sometimes 10 to 20% variable comp of base, which is getting their total compensation, at least the carrot dangle, closer to what law firms are promising in terms of base compensation. And some people are willing to take that risk of, oh, I will take less on the base. Maybe I'll, make more in total compensation or closer to what I would make at a law firm, but I don't want to come into an office. I'm not going to do it. Or I'm not looking for law firm culture. Or I'm looking for more vertical mobility long-term. And I think I can find more of that at a vendor than I might at a law firm. So I'm going to go with this choice. But Again, law firms are paying more in order to compete against vendors and overcompensate for making people come into an office.
Jared, do you have any sense of whether there's a difference between work environment across law firm, service provider, government, whatever else there is, just in terms of remote, hybrid, in office?
Yeah, government wants you in 5 days a week. They're probably the only ones that want you in 5 days a week. But you also don't leave with the BlackBerry or an iPhone at the end of the day, right?
9 to 5.
You come in, you turn on, you leave, you turn off, generally speaking. Not the case for all state level employees, but certainly at the federal level. That's 9 times out of 10 the case. At vendors, you know, I think that the difference often at vendors is, it's going to sound odd, but maybe a greater sense of autonomy. I think as the vendors get a lot bigger, people are working in smaller groups. Whereas if you're at a law firm lit support department, it's pretty hard not to be visible to the whole, right? There aren't too many law firm lit support departments that have 50, 60 plus people where you can kind of go in and coast or hide or create a fiefdom for yourself or get comfortable, right? You're pretty visible. You're a clutch player. Law firms are running much leaner than vendors are in terms of just numbers of headcount, right? They probably constitute 25% of the open recs on the market, whereas vendors constitute 65% of the recs on the open market. So there are less jobs at law firms than there are at vendors, generally speaking. And as you can see by all the different nomenclature we've used here for jobs, there's a greater ecosystem of diversified opportunities at vendors than we're generally seeing at law firms, and thus an ecosystem of salary that's more diversified than we're seeing at law firms. But I don't think you can go to a law firm and hide and coast, not in today's marketplace.
So let's move forward to our next slide, only because I know we've shortened our time frames to 30 minutes for all of our ION ESIs. So I want to make sure we get through this.
Yeah, we don't have to spend much time here. I actually want to make sure we leave some time to A, answer questions, and B, talk about what we're about to release. This is all the same. Next month, we will have 2022 through the end of Q3 metrics on workforce evolution. But I would just say this about this slide, which is the most important. You can see that we're still more or less living in a world where most jobs are remote or hybrid. Right. We're also living in a world where the pendulum is about to swing back in the other direction much faster than it used to in between moments of recession. So because we're about to experience another recession, which is only 2 years away from the last one we had, but the one we had before that was almost 10 years before, what we're going to see now is get ready. People are going to get fired. People are going to get fired. People are going to lose headcount approval for full-time hires. And the market's going to shift to contract, right? From a hiring perspective and from a job seeker perspective. There's already brewing a strong portfolio of people available for contract projects. And we're already hearing from customers that they're asking to put their full-time headcount on hold to Q1 or Q2 of next year, which means when the rubber meets the road, they're going to hire contractors because those contractors will be 100% billable sometimes, can plug right into things that they need to service customers for today, and then can be phased out when the work dries up, because the work might dry up before we know whether or not we're in or out of a recession. So the community should prepare for this. Hiring managers should know the talent is out there, and talent should know that the next best opportunity for them may not be a full-time one.
And so, Jared, are you also seeing, or Mike, what are your thoughts? Do you think that outsourcing to more of the legal service providers is going to start increasing? Because like you said, it can be billable.
I mean, I already think it's like pedal to the floor. I mean, I just don't think law firms are able to hire fast enough or in enough volume to say our strategy moving into this recession or even 2023 or even coming out of the pandemic is we're going to hire more people, grow our business, increase top line and bottom line revenue. I don't see that as their priority. I think their priority is how do we get this work done? How do we service our attorneys? And how do we do it in the most cost-effective way and generally and quickly? And generally, that means outsourcing. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's consistent with just sort of law firm economics, if you will.
Yes.
Law firms are risk-averse places. If there's a downturn, they cut their losses and, ride it out and try to get lean. Some are better at it than others, obviously, and some are more, what's the word, sympathetic. But for the most part, if the economy goes south, there's usually a shift in the workforce, and I think that's exactly what. Assuming, I'm not convinced. I'm going to be a little softer on the inflation and what's the word I'm looking for here? The impact. I think that people I'm talking to are really busy. So I have less of a doomsday view, but I could be wrong.
Look, it's not a doomsday view.
Yeah.
It's not, but also, Mike, I think it would be irresponsible as somebody whose job is to kind of lead and guide the community to say that what I hear from a lot of people, which I think is a dangerous position to take, which is ediscovery is recession proof. We're recession proof.
It's definitely not that.
It's not that, guys. It really isn't. And if you're at a company that is highly debt leveraged, keep your ear to the ground. Be careful, because those are the companies that will fire people first.
But what's always been interesting to me about the legal business is that there are components baked in that sort of deal with recession era. The bankruptcy and restructuring business picks up during a downturn. Litigation comes when you come out of that. Litigation seems to pick up. So it's cyclical for sure. It's just a question of what does the market need. So I guess I'm just more optimistic. I don't know.
Brace yourself. I think there's change afoot, and I also will tell you something has to give. Somebody's levee has to break. Meaning, either law firms are going to change their criteria in order to get these jobs filled, or candidates are going to compromise and be willing to do whatever it takes to fill these positions. But right now, it's a little bit of a stalemate with a lot of law firms, particularly in the large cities. And look, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, because I want to touch on some other things before we close this up. But just having moved back to New York City, people won't take the subway anymore. People tell me not to take the subway. It's not safe after a certain time. Don't walk in these neighborhoods. I lived in New York pre-Giuliani years, and I remember when New York was like that. It hasn't been like that in 25 years. And guess what? If people don't want to take the subway, they're not going to want to come into an office 3 days. These things all have triggering and rippling effects.
I agree with you. I agree.
And it really does impact the hiring process.
I agree with you.
All right, so let's touch a little bit on relativity skills analysis.
Yeah, so on Wednesday next week, or maybe Tuesday of next week, we're releasing the first ever 5-year analysis of relativity's impact on the job market. And a few of these slides are just a very quick overview to give everybody a little bit of a tease of some of the findings. And just to give everyone a sense of where we got all this data, one of the things we do for our customers, and that we did in collaboration with Relativity, is create a 65-point questionnaire where candidates score themselves on no skills, some skills, advanced skills, and expert level skills in different relativity functionalities. And we've aggregated close to 4,000 applicants that we've represented over the last 5 years that have filled this out, and looked at it temporally over time, and come with a few deductions that we think are going to be really valuable for the community. The first of which you're looking right now is the proliferation of Relativity 1 skills. So job seekers 5 years ago didn't have a lot of it, didn't matter to hiring managers. Job seekers today, 64% of people that are filling this application out in the last 2 years are using Relativity 1. And that's going to have rippling effects, both in terms of individual leverage and what hiring managers are expecting and looking for from job seekers. We can go to the next slide. I'll be quick. This is really interesting because it talks about processing skills. And what you've seen here are the amount of people that don't have any relativity processing skills has dropped pretty dramatically, right? By almost 15% from 2018, where half the people that were filling this out didn't process it all in relativity. That's dropped significantly. Conversely, people who consider themselves experts has gone way up from single digit to almost 20% of applicants are considering themselves expert now. So what we're seeing is hiring managers are expecting processing skills and people are getting them. Next slide. This is interesting because this is on review skills. What we're seeing here, we separated tactical from strategic review skills. And essentially what we've seen in the market is an explosion of people who are moderately skilled at review. and a real decline in people that are focused on the more strategic. So the volume of people in the market are getting baseline review skills, but there aren't enough people that are moving from moderate or advanced up into expert level strategic skills, CAR, workflow review management and analytics, dynamics, using advanced dynamics or using continuous active learning modules. Not enough of the market is getting that, which is a real opportunity for job seekers who want to distinguish themselves and get higher compensation. More strategic review skills are going to get them that.
So
Yes.
upskill now.
Upskill now, man. Upskill now. And that leads me into the next slide, which is, I believe, on analytics, Maribel. And this is probably the most important deduction that we had from the survey. We might have lost Maribel on freeze. But essentially what we've learned from the survey, or from all these reports, are that not enough people are getting analytics in relationship to the demand we're seeing from hiring managers. So this notion that analytics was a specialized skill set the way infrastructure is just not the case, right? Hiring managers want all their project managers and analysts to be involved in analytics to some degree. That doesn't mean advanced CAR or CAL, but basic analytics. And the more advanced those analytic skills are, the more likely you are going to be able to compete for more jobs, higher paying jobs. And there's a real gap there in the industry in terms of the volume of demand for more analytic skills and the volume of people that consider themselves advanced or expert in that. And I'll pause there so we leave a few minutes for questions. But if you're interested in seeing the full report and all of the data, we'll be releasing it on the TRU Staffing Partners website on either Tuesday or Wednesday. There'll be a press release that comes out. And if you see us at Relativity Fest, we'll have a booth. We'll be there. I know Maribel and Mike will be too. You can pick up a copy. We'll have printed, beautiful, glossy copies for you to take home as a job seeker or to your stakeholders as a hiring manager, and use that to help educate people about what's happening with Relativity's impact on the job market.
Awesome. And I have to apologize. For some reason, my Wi-Fi keeps going out all of a sudden. It just decided in the middle of this. But we will be, we've got 2 minutes left. I don't see it. So we do have a question. Can you recommend how to get the best skilled training on Relativity? Do you see some other platform replacing Relativity?
Yeah, I don't think that the game right now in the market is not replacement. The game right now in the market is options. And do I see a lot of other people buying other technologies in order to give their customers options? Yes, I do. I think Reveal has had huge impact in the market. Everlaw, Disco have had huge impacts in terms of growth this year of adoption. But I don't think people are looking to replace Relativity. They're looking for diversification is more what I see happening in the marketplace. Exactly. In terms of where to get the best training, you can't find better training than a mentor that you work with who will downstream their knowledge to you.
Yeah. Mike?
Or at ACEDS, frankly. Yeah, no, we're seeing the same thing. A lot of people want different options. It's matter specific, it's client specific. Sometimes clients are driving the conversation. Sometimes the firms are driving the conversation. It depends. So I hate to sound like a lawyer when I say that, but it truly does depend on the individual situation. Yeah,
you have to look at the cost, right? What's the budget? All of those things play a part in that. And that's why some vendors are agnostic and have more than one tool.
Yeah. Hey, Jared, there was another question in the chat. I just wanted to, because I'm not sure. I was going to answer it, but are vendors imposing billable hour mandates?
No, but we are seeing a lot of vendors create bonus programs and bonus pools based on your billable hour target. So you cross a certain threshold a month, you're making XYZ for every hour you bill above and beyond that, or you cross a certain threshold within a quarter, you get a flat bonus of this against those billable hours. We are seeing that as an incentive program at vendors.
Excellent. Great. Well, Mike, we will be at Relativity Fest. I know, Jared, you have a session. Do you want to just share that with everyone?
Yes, I actually don't have a session this year, sadly. Okay. But we are having a booth for the first time. TRU will be there. I'll be there with most of our staff. We'll have copies of this report available for everybody. We'll also have copies of our compensation trending reports that we've been presented so that you could take that home with you. And if you're looking to hire, or you're looking for a job, come have a consultation with us. We'd love to see you.
Good. Well, ACEDS will have a booth and we will have a session. So our session is Friday morning, 8 a.m. We're going to have some prizes. It's a little bit of pop culture and e-discovery, cybersecurity, data privacy, quizzing, right? And it's very interactive. It will be Mike, myself, David Horrigan, Kenya Dixon, Parrish Dixon, and Joy Morale. So please come by 8 a.m. on Friday morning. And then Mike and I will be at the booth. We've got some of our Chicago chapter board members hanging out over there as well. So we're in the community pavilion with TRU and some other sponsors. So stop by our booth, say hello, let us know what we're doing. If you're a member, what you love, what you need, and we're happy to address that. And if you're not a member, come by and just talk to us about why you should become a member or why you should join some of our enroll in training. So we're happy to do that with you as well.
Everybody should be a member of ACEDS. This is the centrifuge for the community, and part of what it means to have an accelerated career in this community is to participate in it and be highly visible. So get with your peers. If you're there, make yourself seen. That's half the battle. It's half the battle.
I agree. Mike, final words?
Final words. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.